All right, Talon.
We're filming, so it means Talon has a scratch. And I'm squinting because I don't have my sunglasses.
Neither.
So, where are we at?
I have no idea.
We are at the Dueling Grounds Distillery.
In Kentucky.
Yeah, in Franklin, Kentucky. We're at the Dueling Grounds Distillery in Franklin, Kentucky, and we're getting ready to go check out the tour. I hear they have great bourbon and gin. So, and we're also spending the night here because they are a Harvest host. Right there. Well, let's go check it out.
So the first part of the process is the mashing, which is just the cooking of your grains. So this is our mash tun. This is where the whole process starts. We start off with some water in here that we heat up to 190 degrees. While that water is heating up, we're going to add that ground corn first. That corn is going to cook at 190 degrees for about 45 minutes. What happens at that high temperature is we are extracting the starches from the corn out into our solution so that we can convert those starches into sugar. Same way your body works. You have amylase enzyme in your saliva, which actually turns starches into sugars in your body. After that corn cooks, we're going to cool it down to 165 degrees so that we can add our flavor grain, which is a red winter wheat. Now that's a little different than some bourbons out there. A lot of bourbons like to use rye as their flavor grain. We chose wheat because that's what we grow in this area. We wanted to be able to buy from and support our local farmers as much as possible. So that makes us a wheated bourbon. And wheated bourbons tend to be a little bit sweeter, a little bit softer, smoother than some of those high rye content bourbons.
Oh, we got some stuff.
Yeah. So once we pump that mash into the fermenter, we put the yeast in there. That yeast is going to start a reaction with those sugars. The products of that reaction are alcohol, carbon dioxide, and heat. So especially during the summertime, we really have to monitor the temperature of these to make sure it doesn't get too hot. If it does, they have jackets installed on the right side here. We can just open up that blue valve. That chill water will run through that jacket, and it'll exchange heat with what's inside to keep it at the right temperature. So our fermentation usually takes about 3 or 4 days. The first couple of days, there's so much activity, so much carbon dioxide is being released, that it pushes all the grain up to the top. Kind of like you see here. It's kind of starting to thin out a little bit now though. But if you come here a little bit closer, if I pull this grain to the side, you can see that fermentation in action there, all that carbon dioxide that's being released. Once it gets towards the end of the fermentation, you can see it's a little thick up here up top. But if you look at that one is closer to the end. Most of those sugars have been consumed. There's less carbon dioxide being released. That grain falls down to the bottom just by gravity.
Looks like potato soup.
It does. Once it's, you can see a little bit of bubbling going on here. But once that grain has fallen to the bottom, that's when we know that it's ready to be distilled. At that point, we've got what's known as a distiller's beer. It's about 8 to 12% alcohol by volume. The next thing we want to do with this beer is we want to extract or strip all the pure alcohol out of it. That's done by distillation. So once we pump that the beer in here with all the grains, we're going to do what's known as a stripping run. The stripping run is technically our first distillation. So what we collect from that, we'll go back through the still one more time for the final spirit run. So we're technically known as a double pot stilled bourbon. Once we get to the end of that hearts portion, usually around 125 proof, you're going to get to one of the more important parts, but also one of our favorites, because that's where we're going to stand by the still for a few minutes and constantly taste it, smell it.
Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah, it's a tough job, right? You can also feel it getting more oily at that point, and that's where you have to make a decision on making a cut from your hearts into your tails. Your tails, you just start losing that perfect taste and smell. Your proof starts dropping pretty rapidly. But it also has lots of oils in it, which are good. Oils have flavor. So the oily tails we get at the end, and those high proof heads we set aside from the beginning, we're going to combine them, and we will run those back through the next spirit run to make sure we're working all the alcohol out. It also carries over a little bit of taste and consistency from the last batch going into the next batch each and every time. These we rarely see any type of big leak. Every once in a while we'll encounter a small drip. But if you just leave that water sitting in there for a little while, it's going to swell up and seal itself up. After we determine there's no leaks, we dump the water out. While the barrel is still empty, we're going to roll it up onto this floor scale right here. And we have a calculation that lets us know by weight how much of our product needs to go in that barrel, which is dependent on the entry proof. Then we're going to fill it up the rest of the way with distilled water so that it's going in the barrel at 120 proof instead of that close to 150 that we got it off the still. After those barrels are filled, we're going to roll them over here for temporary storage. So all these lighter color barrels that you see here were filled fairly recently. Once we get the rest of these empty barrels filled, we're going to load them onto a truck and drive them up to a storage facility. We lease this space at Wilderness Trail Distillery's warehouses up in Danville, Kentucky. And one of the reasons why Kentucky is the birthplace of bourbon is the climate. Kind of a centralized location where we get all 4 seasons pretty much. Lots of heat, lots of humidity, but also a good amount of cold weather, especially in the northern part of the state. Those temperature fluctuations throughout the year are essential to the aging process. It helps the spirit expand and contract inside the barrel. It's helping push it in and out of pores in the wood, and that's where it's pulling out that caramel-like, vanilla-like flavors, the oakiness, the smokiness, and the color. All that stuff comes from the barrel and the char that's on the inside. So after our barrels have aged at that facility for as long as we've decided, we're going to get them back here for bottling. Before we get into the bottling part, I do want to point out that we filled our 300th barrel at the end of last month. So we're asking anybody that's coming through, if you'd like to, you're welcome to sign the barrel for us.
There. I put our real names on it. Oh, and we need a date, right? Today is what is today? 15th.
21.
Yep.
It is 21.
Those small batch barrels we're going to dump into this blending tank here. Once they go in this tank, we add water to proof them down to 100 from the 120 something they might be in the barrel. This is an air compressor powered agitator that's going to help blend those for us. Then we're ready to bottle. So this is possibly the smallest bottling area you may ever see in your life. So you got a spool of labels on there. Lay your bottle on there like so. You're going to press that pedal. It'll label both sides of that bottle for us most of the time. Then we're going to line up for here.
Seconds area?
Yeah. Those usually become tasting bottles, the ones that mess up. We're going to line up for here, push a button, it'll extract from that tank, fill up 4 bottles at a time. Then we're going to insert the guns cork on top, and it is a real cork. A lot of people use synthetic these days. This is a placeholder for that small batch medallion that we apply on there ourselves. You'll notice that the cast strength has a different medallion, different color scheme on the label. Then we are going to handwrite the batch, proof, age, everything on the back. Then we use a little handheld heat gun with some shrink wrap bands to seal up the bottle top, and then it's ready to go into a box for distribution or for use or sale up in the gift shop. So what you see here is pretty much the definition of a craft distillery. There's no computer automation. We do pretty much everything by hand. Everything is done in-house except for that storage part. It's the only part we don't do here.
Start to finish.
And the guys, well, you know, it just depends on how long you're going to age. But from cooking the grain to putting it in a barrel is about a week.
Okay.
And then it goes into storage. Right. We'll say at least 4 years. Then we get it back here, and it'll take us, you know, a week or 2 to get everything bottled up. Cocktails that you picked out today, the recipes are on the back of the menu there for you.
Okay.
And if you do feel like purchasing anything, just feel free to grab right off the shelf.
Perfect.
This little vial right here is water. Some people like to add a couple drops of water to their bourbons and whiskeys.
Yeah.
And that'll kind of open up some of those flavors, especially on those higher proof ones. Like I said, the cast strength is 122.2 proof. So, would anybody care for a cup of ice water?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. So this is the 4-year single barrel cask strength. So this is the most kick.
So you start with the most kick? I would have thought you would have started with the weakest, but no.
I'll work my way to the next drink.
No, I know, but
Well, that's smooth. So I went from the 4-year single barrel cask strength to the 4-year small batch 100 proof.
He's like 17 years old.
There you
So
go.
far, so good. I mean, you
I can't
can't.
imagine that I would like them.
Try that.
Okay. Are you just doing that to get my reaction?
No, I put some water in it.
Live
So.
on the lawn. Oh, waterfront? Yeah, that's what we'll be playing 2 days in. Where's that? When's that?
Why do people want to drink this again?
Because it's good.
Okay.
21st, 22nd?
I don't like the initial, but the after and the taste after, that's kind of what I like.
We tried all the cocktails they have.
Yep.
We didn't try the Kentucky apple pie on its own, but it's in the old fashioned. We didn't try any of the fruit liqueurs, but we just tried one here.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't try the Kentucky Clear, which is unaged white dog whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
All good. All good.
Very good.
Even the gin, which I hate gin.
Yeah.
If you saw our video on Tarpon Springs Distillery, I said that I hated gin, but this is good gin. This is good gin. It might be better gin than Tarpon Springs. It's close.
I don't know.
I'd have to do a side-by-side comparison.
Yeah, you're starting to turn into a gin man.
Am I getting that old?
You might
I'm
be.
turning into a gin guy. No, I'm not. Whiskey's, bourbon's my favorite.
Yep.
Time to go shopping and finish these off first. So I still don't have any glasses. It's still sunlight. There's still cars going by. Shelly's still here. If you can look really hard, you might see our reflection in the windows behind us. But this was fun. It was what? 11 bucks, 10, 11 bucks per person?
Yeah, like $21 so for both of
And you
us.
get to choose 4 drinks and a side of whatever.
Yeah, and a side.
You know, like
whatever
pretzels or whatever, you know, something to clear your palate.
Well, they have truffles here, so you had the option to be able to get a truffle as well. So
Well, don't you truffle with me.
Yeah. Truffle here, truffle there, truffle everywhere.
Yeah, this is a good Harvest Host stop for sure. A lot of fun. They're open from 10 to 6 Monday through Saturday and 3 to 7 on Sunday. It is a relatively busy road. They're nearby, but they're literally like, what, 2 minutes from everything.
Well, actually, the 2 best places to eat, you can walk from here, is what he said.
Yeah.
So,
Or limp, in my case.
or limp, whichever one you need.
But I mean, there's a Walmart, all kinds of stuff around. Highly recommend.
Yep.
So, let's go see what trouble we can get into. We've come to a time in our lives, we just don't know where we're going. We don't know what to do. We've come to a fork in the road.
Like, literally.
Literally, a fork in the road. It says 2018 on it. I don't know if that's a year, a weight, brand name, who knows? But here outside of Franklin, Kentucky, is this fork in the road.
And it's in the middle of nowhere out here.
It's just a fork in the road.
Just, it is a fork in the road and a fork in the road.
Yeah.
It's a couple forks in the road, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a road that goes by right here, and you can go that way or that way.
So, like, any which way that you turn, it's the fork in the road. The fork.
But I'll say this. Stick with me on this one. There comes a time when you're doing things like struggling at a fork in the road where you just have to stop and smell the cow manure, because that's what we're doing. We're smelling the cow manure. There's cows everywhere here, and it's beautiful out here. A little chilly. Just left the Dueling Grounds Distillery where we're spending the night as a Harvest Host. Great tour there. So we just had to come to a fork in the road.
Yep, so if you stay there as a Harvest Host, you can come out and see the fork in the road too.
It's like what, 7 or 8 minutes?
Yeah, 10 minutes.
Yeah, not far.
Not very far.
All right, dinner time. So we're at the Simpson County Tourist Center in Franklin, Kentucky. Not too far from the fork in the road.
Nope.
Why are we here? We can't get away from aliens.
Aliens, aliens, aliens.
We talked about the abduction in a previous video in Pascagoula, but here we actually have a death. Captain Thomas Mantle Jr., as a Kentucky Air National Guard pilot, was chasing what he thought was a UFO and got into a high altitude climb and blacked out for lack of oxygen in his P-51 Mustang and crashed here on January 7th, I believe, in 1948. This actually changed the public perception of UFOs. Before this, people thought that UFOs were like some kind of crazy, weird thing and just whimsical. You know, it didn't matter, you know, not real. But now, this guy died chasing a UFO, and he was a military fighter pilot. So this actually changed everything about the American perception of UFOs. And later, they come out and said that he didn't die chasing a UFO. It was some kind of top secret balloon project. They always say it's a balloon project. I mean, really? He's in an airplane and he can't catch a balloon?
I don't know. But it does say right on the sign that the intense military investigation of incident became part of Project Sign, later Blue Book.
Yeah.
Project Blue Book.
But this is cool here at the, as you can see, the tourist center is a log cabin. Talon's in there laying down. And they got cool mural all around here. And apparently a really good restaurant right here because it's they close in like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and there's people sitting outside waiting to get in still. For an overnight stay, we packed in quite a bit.
Yeah.
Especially an overnight stay after a crappy overnight stay the night before at a Cracker Barrel. Crappy Cracker Barrel. But it was a lot of fun. Dueling Grounds Distillery, really good booze, really friendly. Highly recommend that Harvest Host. Level ground, not the only level ground in the area. I mean, it's the hills of Kentucky, so hard to find level ground. They had level ground. It's a level playing field. So if you like this video, and you're not a subscriber, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. Ring that notification bell so you'll get notified whenever we have new content. And if you'd like to help us support small local veterans charities all over the country, consider becoming a Patreon member or joining our YouTube membership page. There's links to both of those in the description of this and all of our videos. And we appreciate any help you choose to give us in our mission to help small local veterans charities. Thank you guys so much for watching this video.
And make your next journey an epic adventure.